I consider being an artist one of the luckiest things to be born in. That in grief, I can run to my studio and struggle with a piece of wood and relate to the wood like myself, ultimately become the wood, become me, and I can transfer this energy. It is a phenomenal thing to do.
This is one of 4 auditory experiences in Womb of Sorrow, the first part of Kardash Oneg's 2-part installation entitled Transfourming, Transfourming Sorrow. It's an invitation to not only mourn, but to transform our individual and collective sorrow. In this first of 2 rooms in separate structures, the carved wooden vessels that hold speakers sit on a rug from Turkey, brought by his grandmother who survived the Armenian Genocide. Walking up a path, you arrive just a few minutes later to another room, which is Part 2, Field of Transformation, with panels surrounding yellow wood sculptures.
Dear childhood friend of mine sent me a book of poems by our poetry teacher, who was his father, who was a survivor of the genocide. And he had watched his whole family being butchered, end up in a desert, and then survived the Second World War and Lebanese war, because he grew up in Lebanon. And then the Armenians killing each other in Lebanon, and another Lebanese war, and on top of it all, his son dies at the age of 30, a car accident. He is totally devastated, so he writes this poem. And what does he end up at the end? He says the only way he could transcend the sorrow was to adopt all victims, all children, as his own. That's like brought him from a tribal poet to a universal poet. Here he's talking about his son's death.
The name of the poet? This is the one.
Vahe Vahian is the poet's name. The black accident snatched you, whisked you away from my very own hands, from the golden palace of my dreams, my pride, the Ararat of my hope. Orphaned once again, this orphaned man, since that black accident. I am transformed, Vahram. I am transformed so much so that in every victim I see a rebel or a silver particle of you. From every drop of split blood, I smell the sharp, bitter smell of your own blood. Son, and my heart burns. I'm so changed. I'm so changed. And know it, Vahram. You are the maker of this transformation.
What do you want someone who walks in from the outside and only knows that this is about transforming sorrow, transforming grief, and knows a bit about the Armenian Genocide? What do you hope a person walking in here gets out of
Well,
this?
it's a 2-part. This one is about a poet who transformed himself. This is about the history, this is about my past, and it stops here. The next room you go to is the new me, a universal me. I'm not this anymore. This is what I'm grieving, this beauty of this language. It's the most beautiful language I grew up, was my mother language. I had to give it up voluntarily, knowing that I cannot carry this anymore. Not their story, not the pain, it doesn't cut it. In itself is one-sided history. I wanted the other side included. Anything you have has to evolve into universal consciousness.
Oneg mentions transference with reference to 2 writers of the Transcendentalism movement.
How do we transcend this grief if we're still talking in different languages, under different flags of religion and this religion and that religion? How do you get rid of all that? And it's a process of getting rid of. And for me, Emerson has been a good help. Krishnamurti has been a good help.
Oneg says the 4 in Transformation is stepping toward a 3-dimensional communication system.
In this case, if I take the 4 samples on human level, on the daily routine, how I live, there are 4 things I have to discuss in every one of this. It's philosophy, spirituality, the arts, and science. In every piece here, these four are harmonious. There's as much science as there is aesthetic of art and spirituality. And for me, spirituality isn't about a God up there, whatever. It's about the other, between you and the other. This energy that's created, we call transference. It's called a spirit. So at the end, this transference lives in you and lives in me, and we carry it around like aura around our body.
He says the four also represents the four seasons and the four primary elements of air, earth, water, and fire.
I mean, do I want to be like Zionists, go back to Palestine, kill the Palestinians, take over the land? Do I want to go Turkey, kill the Turk? No. My feeling is like I feel for myself. I have liberated myself as an Armenian from the past of the dogma of having to be Christian, having to speak this alphabet, I have liberated. And hopefully the Turks get liberated themselves, and then we can talk to each other. But we can't talk, the Armenians talking Armenian, Turks talking Turkish. They both have their own story. They both have made up what they want. And it doesn't mean it happened or it didn't happen. It's not the issue at all for me. It's like we're an ecological issue that transcends having borders, but we're still fighting borders. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous that at one point humanity is at stake.
How do you feel about presenting Transfourming Sorrow at the Wisdom House?
The Wisdom House. I think it is in line, very much so, as a process towards what I'm talking about, universality. So the Wisdom House has already taken out the church concept of an altar and somebody represents God on this earth, and he's got this little things around here. He opens a page, takes out things, drinks a little bit, and he's got it all ritualized down to a boring job, basically. They took it all out. And what did they do? They took all male symbols out and they left the Madonna up there. And
then we run the electric thing to the wall and put sound system.
We have a plug. We could put a cover over it.
Right. We're going to do something.
Մորս կղանցքին գարչած թեր մանուկ կիտնայի ուրգե թե ինչ որ մեզի հաներեր փաժին աշխարհն աբիրատ մխցավանչ մներ